this conception that people have of leadership as CEO, COO, CFO, top, brass in the executive suite, C-suite, whatever we want to call it, right? Yeah. But one of the things you mentioned in the book is that one of the most influential positions in terms of employing leadership and empathy is more middle management, what sometimes referred to as sandwich managers. Can you speak to like the influence and the necessity of empathy in that middle management domain?
Absolutely. Because that's one of those domains where it's like most important to make sure you're using cognitive empathy so that you're not burning yourself out, because you are a sandwich manager. You're beholden to the people below you and the people above you, which makes it really difficult because, you're like constantly all the time. And if one or the other of these is dysfunctional, it can be really, really difficult. But that's also why they have the most power, even if they don't realize it, because you can influence down or influence up. And you really can. I think I mentioned in the book, I don't like the term manager. Manager goes back to, we're talking command and control style of leadership again, where, you think of the organization as a machine. And this is the theory behind it. The organization is a machine. People really are cogs and parts of the machine. So your job as a manager is to make sure this machine is running well and all the cogs are doing what they're supposed to do. And I just think we're beyond that. We're way beyond that. But there's still this idea that people need to be managed, and they don't. They need to be led. So I prefer middle leaders, number one, because they actually stand to do the most good, both up and down. But number two, because these are the people that will become C-suite executives. And they can either continue the tradition of putting people into upper level management positions that aren't there because they're the best leaders. They're there because they're the best technicians, bring in the most money, make the most sales. Or you can start sharpening your leadership skills early so that when you get to that spot, you can do better. You can do more. You can actually make the kind of difference that leadership should be able to do. Leadership should be able to handle strategy and vision. And if you can't bring others along with you because there's no connection and understanding, then no amount of command and control is going to fill that gap.
Agreed. I wish I had my staples like this, that was easy button. I wish I had my agreed button right there.
Yes, applause.
Right. There's such a reduction of the potential for ways of working together, but also just relating. It feels, going back to assembly line times, it feels like we're working with robots if we're using that cogs in a wheel, which ironically more AI is coming on now than it did before, right? It does feel very outdated. And yet so many of these old ways of relating to workers are almost immutable. They live on and they're thought of as truth without seeing that this is actually a belief system that was encoded and popularized before it was just the way that things were.
Yeah. And that's just it. You think about it, and you have younger people that come up into upper leadership positions, and this is what they see modeled. This is what they see that people have been doing. And so they in turn do it, not because necessarily it's what they want to do, but because it's what they've seen, and they don't really think about doing it any other way. And we have generations of layers and layers and layers. So it's going to take someone who can actually look at it and go, there's a better way. And it isn't just about lip service. Like I said, we've been talking about emotional intelligence since 1991. It's not just about talking about it. It's not just about taking personality tests so we understand ourselves better. It's about actually digging in and doing it actionably, which brings me back to that. It's one thing to use it. It's another thing to do it.
Yeah, totally. And before we wrap up, there's that point that you make in the book that it's also never too late to start.
Yes.
Can you talk to that?
Absolutely. Because we go back again to adult learning, an awareness that there's a gap and a desire to fill it. And as long as you have the desire to fill it, you can start to ingrain the habits of self-reflection, the habits of self-awareness, the habits of self-empathy, so that you can then actually use empathy as a strategic skill. And you can do it starting today. Habits are a fuzzy thing. I mean, it depends on who you ask and how long it takes to build them or that kind of thing. But if you use practice consistency, if you're consistently doing this and you're really trying to instill it, general rule of thumb is about 21 days if you're consistent with it. And that's not assuming that you have, maybe a certain amount of built-in talent, or that you've already considered how you want to be able to do this. You can start instilling this now. And you may or may not see results immediately, because the stuff that comes out of this are lagging indicators. They happen after whatever it is. But you can do it today and wait and see what results you get in 21 days. Commit to it. Commit to it for a month. Because really, what have you got to lose? Even if you learn a skill set that you can use at home and you can use with other people, and maybe you use within your sector of the organization, you've gained something.